How's it going, everybody? I'm Driftwood. Welcome back to Learning GameMaker Studio 2. In this episode, I'm going to show you how to make another object that will let you change to a different scene. We're going to create like a space station where we can dock and repair our ship from damage using the minerals that we get as loot from killing the ship. So I'll illustrate what we're going to do first, and then I'll show you how to do it. Mute the music here. So if we enter this station here, it just takes us to a new map. And basically a new room, and it shows some text that says press the spacebar to exit the station, and we get this little button here that says spend 1 mineral to repair. You can make whatever buttons you want in Photoshop, or you can just draw text and let them, like, press 1 to repair. There's 1,000 ways to do it. I thought having a little button, I made it like in 1 minute in Photoshop, so you can do these little buttons even at like GIMP for free, or anywhere you want. But this method is going to be using a sprite to do it. So if I click on it, you're going to hear doom, 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 that it doesn't do anything. It's not taking any minerals, doom, 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 and it's giving you like a doom, doom, cancel sound effect. We press spacebar, we exit the menu, we go back to the map here. Let's kill some ships. Let's try to get some minerals. Hopefully these guys drop some minerals for us. Alright, there's some minerals. We got some minerals. Let's take some damage. Boom. So now we got 2 minerals, and we've took some damage. So let's enter the space station here, and click on this button. Boom. We clicked on it. It took a mineral. It played a sound effect. It played an animation, and it filled our HP. Now, there's also some conditionals that stop you from wasting minerals. Well, what if you have minerals and you're already at full life? Well, it's not going to let you waste your minerals because you don't want the player to have to waste minerals. You want to eliminate anything that could frustrate the player. So we press spacebar. We're back onto this map, and it'll basically restart this map pretty much. Now let's try one more thing. I guess if we let's see. Let's go ahead and see if we try to let's try to repair without minerals. Boom, boom. Oh, well, we have to do this one more time. Okay, boom, that'll repair us. Boom, we've took damage, so we've got damage. We don't have any minerals. It's not letting us repair our ship. So, pretty simple. If we have minerals and we have damage, then we'll be able to repair. Let's get one more mineral. Here we go. Boom. And if we have, even if we have minerals, whenever we're at full life, it won't let us repair. That's it. Simple space station. I made this sprite right inside of the editor right here. I've done that several times. So you can create just a simple box, or you can make an object with Photoshop. Later on, we're going to make it so that it bounces objects off of it. You can see how the ships fly like underneath it. It makes sense since the ships would be able to fly underneath it because we're simulating a 3D scene inside of a 2D map basically. So it's not like it's logic breaking. They're not like colliding with the ship. You can still imagine that they're flying underneath it, or I mean with the space station here. And later on, I want to create more buttons, like to increase the damage of our lasers or the damage of our bombs. And you can add as many things as you want to the menu. But let's take a look at this now inside the editor. So that's what we're going to be creating. So create a button, even if it's just a box using, you don't have to do it in Photoshop or anything. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. But make it whatever you want. Somehow you want to let the player know that they're going to spend 1 mineral to repair, or, you can use this logic in several different ways. So let's take a look at, I guess let's start from the top. Create a new scene, right? We're going to have to create a new map. So go to Rooms and add a new room. Right here, right click, create a new room. Call it whatever you want. I'm calling it room_menu. Alright, so let's go to this menu. Yeah, right here. And it's basically the same resolution. I set it to 1280 by 720. And I'm placing a new object inside of this room. So let's take a look at that object. I'm calling it obj_repairbot. Come on, double click. There we go. So all we really need is a step phase and a draw phase for this. So let's take a look at the step phase. We're going to have to edit some of our existing objects to make this work exactly right, but it's pretty simple really. So we're going to say if we're pressing space, so remember if keyboard_check_pressed, VK space, virtual keyboard space, middle click to see all the virtual keyboard commands. You can make it any button you want. So if we're pressing space, we're going to say room underscore go to underscore main. So that means this is while we're already on the scene. We're going to get to the collision event when it collides with when the player collides with this object in a second. So we're going to say if we're inside this menu here and we press spacebar, what we want to do is move the player's X and the Y location a little bit, because what will happen if you don't do this is you'll press spacebar and it may look like you're not actually leaving the room, because you're leaving the room, but because the player's still on that location, it's putting you right back in that room. You know, it's like starting you. It's because you leave the menu, and then your player is still colliding with the space station, which puts you back in the menu, and it does that all in one frame or 2 frames. So you won't even notice that you've left the scene. It'll be like, oh, the button isn't working. So you need to move the player away from the space station so that it doesn't collide, right? Then what we're going to do is we're going to create a variable. So on another object that's storing your health and all your other stuff, I'm using objects underscore status. We're going to create a new variable called end station, and we're going to make it a Boolean value, yes or no, a true or false value. So we're going to say obj underscore status dot end station equals false. So now we're pressed spacebar, we've left the menu, and we've moved the player, and we're going to say that, hey, we're no longer in the station. Okay, cool. We're going to go through the OBJ status changes and the OBJ player changes next. But just write that down for now, and we'll add those things. If you try to run it, it would crash because it's not there yet. So now we're going to make, there could possibly be a better way to do this, because you usually want to avoid nested conditionals when you can. But this works fine for me, and it'll probably work fine for you. What we wanted to do is find a way to check if we're pressing the mouse button left or right, and we also want to see, we want to check where the mouse is at. So if we were to click on the repair button, if we were to click anywhere on the map, it wouldn't work. We would have to click on that button for this whole thing to play, you know, for it to do the sound effects and the animation and restore the health and all that. So here's how you make that work. Let's extend this just a little bit. Cool. So here's the conditional. If mouse underscore check underscore button underscore pressed MB underscore left, that's going to be, you could, like I said, middle click if you need more information on these functions. This is going to check if we're pressing the left button. Then if you press shift and above the enter, there's another button that looks like a straight line. If you do 2 of those, that stands for OR. Now I think they alias, yeah. You could also just type OR, because they alias these built-in function things. So you can just type shift and that straight line twice, or you can just type OR and it'll work the same. So we're saying left or right. If you press left or right, then this condition is met. So we're doing the same thing, mouse check button pressed, MB right. You could do MB middle, and there's a bunch of other stuff you can do. So we're going to open up a brace, and then we're going to tab and try to keep it spaced out so that it looks nice and clean and it's easier to read. So now we're going to do another condition. We're going to say if the mouse is X, which is now that's looking for the location of where the mouse is at on the screen, is greater than equal to X. Now we're looking at the X of this button object. So remember, another thing, when you create this sprite, make sure that you don't center the sprite. You want it to be top left. That way that it'll read correctly. So you don't change we'll take a look at that real quick. Whenever you make this sprite, which is for the SPR, nope, not minerals, derp, SPR underscore nanobot, I guess is what I called it here. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. Come on. Sometimes you got to spam it, click it. So you can see that this is to top left. Now, if you have this middle center, it'll be funky and it won't work right. So just keep that to top left. I want to cover any pitfalls you might come across so you don't get stuck somewhere. So that way it'll read this correctly. So if, also we're going to take into consideration the size. We have to look at the resolution of that button so we know how far to limit the mouse range that we're checking for. So if mouse underscore X is greater than equal to X, and mouse X is less than equal to X plus its maximum X value, right there, then we're going to do something. So that's for the X axis. Now we have to specify the Y axis. So we'll do the same thing. You could also put all of these in one giant conditional, but it would look really nasty and you wouldn't want it to look that way. So that's why I just nested these, and it looks cleaner and it's easier to understand. So we do the same thing. Inside that condition, we're going to make another condition that says mouse underscore Y greater than equal to Y, and mouse underscore Y less than equal to Y plus its maximum Y resolution. Then we'll do another brace and open up the final if condition. So if all of those conditions are met, we have one more condition to check for. We have to see if we have more than 0 minerals, and we have to check that our health is less than full health. Otherwise, we don't want to waste the player's minerals when they're not actually getting any benefit out of it. So if all those conditions are met, the player's got minerals and they're not already at full health, then we're going to do this final thing. We're going to say obj_status.minerals minus equals 1, or whatever coins, whatever you use for that. You're checking for the resource. If the player has the money or whatever, then take 1 away, or however many away you want. Then we're going to say obj_status.playerHealth equals, so we're not adding to a value, we're setting to a value. We're saying it equals the obj_status.player's max health. So if they have minerals, you're clicking on the button, all the conditions are met, restore the player's health to full and take a mineral. If the player has minerals, but they're at full health, it won't work. That's why we're using and here. And if the player doesn't have full health, but it also doesn't have any minerals, it also won't work. So when it does work, we're going to create a little, these are optional things that we've already covered several times. We're going to just do a little animation to give some interactivity to say like, oh, your click did something, right? So instance create layer, we're going to make this animation in the center of this object. So we'll take this resolution and cut it in half, 64 by 64. So we're going to say, where do we want to draw this? We want to draw it at x plus 64, y plus 64. And then we're going to select the layer. We're just going to put it on instance layer. And then we're going to put a comma and say obj_ whatever animation you want. Now, I just duplicated the dust animation the object that I already created, and then I changed its scale to like 50 or something. I made it huge because remember we were zoomed in. Now on this scene, we're not using a camera. It's just using the whole 1280 by 720 resolution. So I duplicated the object and just changed the scale just to make it bigger so that it looks cool. Could also just make your own different animations. I would recommend doing lots of custom ones. But just to keep it simple, you could duplicate and resize the same ones you already have. Then we're doing a sound effect, so we're just going to do audio play sound. Sound, whatever sound effect you want, the priority, and if you want it to loop. Probably don't want it to loop, so you're going to say false. Then on the else handler, now this is saying if some of these conditions aren't met, right? We're clicking on this button, right? But these conditions aren't met. So this is saying if we're clicking on the button, see the reason why I'm doing the else here and not here, because I don't want this to go doom, doom, doom and make a sound effect if I'm clicking anywhere in the scene. Like if I click anywhere in the scene, nothing happens. But if I click on the button, because I've met this condition, met that condition, and that condition, but I don't have minerals or I'm already at full health, then I want it to play a sound effect that's like a cancel, like nope, didn't get it, nothing happened, because you're acknowledging that the button does something, but it didn't actually do what you wanted it to do because one condition or another wasn't met, right? Like you don't have enough minerals or the player's already at full health. So that we're doing a sound effect there. You can optionally add all kinds of other stuff, and if I wanted to add more stuff to the map, then I would just do the same thing on a different object. Now, I'm using this object itself to draw the text on the screen because why not? Let's use as few objects as we actually need to. Could create a separate object for this, but you don't have to. So I'm using a draw event on this button. And whenever you use the draw event, remember you have to actually draw self. So we're drawing self. We're going to set the color to white. We're going to set a font. Now, I already had some fonts, but they were too small. So I just right-clicked and duplicated this font and made the size a lot bigger. Because the Eris font, I was using like a 6-pixel font, and I just duplicated it and made it like 28 pixels so that it's nice and big. So the draw text is pretty easy to do. You just select the X location on the screen you want it to be, the Y location on the screen you want it to be, and then the string you want inside double quotes. And that's it for the draw. So that's it for the button that's going to handle that. Now, there were some changes made to the player object and the status object. Let's take a look at those. So we'll scroll up here. On side, before we get to those two changes, let's look at the new object we created. Remember, we have to make a space station so the player can collide with and go inside of it and change scene, right? You can make this just a simple box, so this doesn't have to look fancy or anything. This is also a very easy event to do. All we have to do here is make a new event, a collision event with the player. And so that's all it has to be visible, and collision with the player, room underscore go to, whatever the name of the room you created, room underscore space station, room underscore station, room underscore house, whatever, right? I'm just calling it room underscore menu. And then we're going to set we're going to control that variable that determines if we're in a station or not, because we actually want to limit the player's movement depending on if they're in a station or not. That way they're just not going to be able to run way off the map and mess up their X location, because remember, we're adding an X to the Y to the player, so we're basically going to stop them from moving their ship around. Even though you don't see the ship, you don't want them to be able to move the ship in the background. It sounds confusing, but it's really simple. Just do it this way. Object underscore status dot in station equals true. Remember that Boolean that we were controlling inside the other thing? We actually haven't created it. That's what we're going to do next. So just do that. Set that Boolean to true when we actually enter that menu. Now let's take a look at the changes we made to... we actually don't need that up. That's just the animation for the space station. This is the changes that we've made to our status. You can actually create a different object and put it in the menu if you want. So basically, this is going to be our initialization. You want this to be on your persistent object, like that handles all of your, like how much money you've got, your health. Like you want to kind of use one object that controls the status and all the parameters of your character, and you want this to be your persistent invisible object that is your placeholder for all your values that you can access. So you can see I've got all these values here. All I did here was I added a movement restriction condition that's set called in station, and we're setting that to false because we're starting off not in the station. We're starting off on the map, the main map. So we're not in the station. We're setting the variable in station to false. That's our Boolean saying, hey, we're not in the station. When you go into the station, we set that to true, and then when we leave the station, we set that to false. And the thing about this is it's going to be necessary in order to limit the player's movement. So what we've done now is I've highlighted all of the player's movement stuff, and I've hit shift so that I've moved it over, because we're going to put it all inside of an if statement. So now this whole thing is encapsulated inside a conditional, a Boolean conditional. So we're going to say if, exclamation mark stands for not. So we're saying if the player, if the Boolean value of in station that's stored inside object status is false, then we can do all of this. Hopefully, I think that sounds confusing. Let me try to make it simple. If we're not in the station, then you can move. If we are in the station, we can't move. So that's why I'm doing it this way. It's the same thing as if I went like this. obj underscore status in station equals false. Now, another thing I don't know if I covered, when you're looking at a comparison inside of a conditional statement, you have to use two equal signs, because that's setting a comparison operation. If you set one equal sign, that's like an assignment operator, right? You're giving it a value when you do one equal sign. But when you want to say compare this to this, you have to do two equal signs inside your conditional. So the way this looks is the same thing as if I went and did like this. Boom. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. And also, if I were to make a condition that says this, if object underscore status dot in station, that's saying the same thing as if I did this. So if this is true, it's like some shorthand that you can use to make your code a little cleaner and easier. So basically, you can eliminate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 characters out of your code, and it'll do the same thing, right? So instead of saying equals false, we're just going to use exclamation. Cool, a neat little trick, right? So if we're not in the station, then let the player move. Do all of his movement commands. He can shoot his laser, he can launch his bomb, he can move around. And if he is in the station, then this condition won't apply. You won't be able to shoot your lasers in the background while you're in the station. You won't be able to launch bombs while you're in the station. You won't be able to wander off the map, messing up your X and Y movement thing. So that's just some checks and balances. Pretty simple stuff, really. Yeah, I think that's it. We already set up our variable, right? For oh, here we go. Oh, we talked about that. We did that. Did I do anything different? I don't think so. I think that's pretty much it. I want to make sure I cover everything so you don't get too confused. When you create your new map, you need to, we already talked about that. You have to drag and drop that new object that we created onto the map, right? On inside of an instance layer. You can see that. Our object repair bot, I dragged it and dropped it. And what's cool is it'll be wherever you want it to be. So if you want this button to be like over here, you don't have to type in the code. You just move it wherever you want because we're not using a camera or anything. So that's what I liked about this method too. And if you actually wanted to use the code to control where it's at, you can go ahead and do that in the code. Like on the step phase or you add a create event, and you can do x equals room underscore width divided by 2, and y equals room underscore height divided by 2. And now it's going to change it's where it's at depending on the code, because x and y is the location of the object. You already know that. So you can place it manually by where you think it should look, or you can use the code to like meticulously place it dead center or wherever you want, right? So yeah, I think that's it. Pretty much for I think that's covered all of the bases. We've did the checks and balances inside this conditional to make sure that the player is not wasting things. We talked about how to do that. We did sound effects on it, animations, and we hit spacebar to leave. That is it. That's it, guys. Hopefully I didn't forget anything. If I did, I'll put it in the next tutorial. We can press M to mute. And I think this little game is coming together. I also added extra sound effects and like animations, like all over the place. You may hear some weird sound effects. I made them in Audacity, just all manually by going and like and changing the pitch on these objects. So we're taking a lot of damage here. We did die. But yeah, hopefully you guys like it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please give it a thumbs up. If you want more GameMaker Studio 2 tutorials, I'm going to be doing one a week. And if we get to the next Patreon goal, I'll be doing 2 of these a week. We're getting pretty close to finishing this game. We're going to start a new game. I know I said earlier I was thinking about doing a platformer game, but I kind of want to do a different game. I want to do like a farming simulator game. I don't know what you guys think about that. I love farming simulator games, and I have a really cute little story for this game. So hopefully the next game will be a little bit more detailed, higher resolution, more code, but like more of like a kind of fun game that's just a different genre, right? Like I said, we're gonna make a lot of different games and learn codes and bits of things, and then eventually learn pieces that you can use to put inside your own game and actually end up getting a game that we can sell within a year or two and make a really big project by learning. You have to do a lot of small projects. This is a mistake that a lot of people make. This is not about this tutorial, but I'm going to go off and talk about this for just a second. A big common thing that people mess up on is they think, okay, let me start my big game. You're going about it completely wrong. You can't just jump into making a big game that you're going to sell. You have to understand that this project that you're working on is going to suck. It may be kind of cool, right? But it's just going to be a small little demo. It's going to be a small little thing, and that's okay. You want to do that. You want to make a lot of those. Make a dozen of those projects before you actually get into like, okay, this is my storyline. I'm going to put a lot of writing, a lot of artwork. I might hire somebody to do like either some code for me or hire somebody to do some art assets for me. You know, before you get to that point, you have to be able to do a lot of the stuff on your run, so you know what you're looking for when you're paying for people to do this stuff. Or if you're doing it all yourself, especially, you need to know how to do all of that. If you're paying somebody for music, you should understand how much time and it would take to do that. Fruity Loops is a good thing to look at. We might have a look at some other free resources you can use to make your games that are royalty free. So I have a lot of different various random tutorials to do, but I also want to focus on making small projects and expanding on those small projects. So probably a few more tutorials on this space shooter, but then we're going to make the next small little game, right? We're going to do a platformer game, we're going to do a farming simulator game, we're going to do probably whatever you guys request kind of game. Eventually, I want to make a pretty decent looking RPG using a battle system like a Final Fantasy 1 style battle system, which is not going to be super easy to make. So that's why we're going to put that off till probably like, you know, months from now or a year from now. But eventually I want to do something like that. Like think RPG Maker MV, but for GameMaker Studio 2, like that sort of thing. because the tile set engine, oh god, guys, the tile sets in GameMaker Studio 2 are so freaking awesome. You can have as many tile set layers as you want. It's going to be so good. Anyway, this tutorial rambled on. I'm sorry, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel if you want more tutorials. And we'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Bye-bye!